And welcome back to the Real Estate Show with Chris Lofthus, the Chris Lofthus Show. Remember, if you want to get a hold of Chris, 350-6228, 350-6228, chrislofthus.com. Contact us at clgeagle.com. That's contact us at clgeagle.com. Chris, we take a look at the economy and employment versus unemployment. We see all these numbers. The numbers, again, just came out this week. Not really good news for the country. But here in the Treasure Valley, there's a pulse, there's a vibe, very different than what it was even 6 months ago.
Yeah, like you just mentioned at the break, we were discussing about the fact that we're starting to see now hiring signs all over the place, around Boise, which is always good. And I kind of wanted to talk with the listeners because, I get questions all the time about the show and different people we have on the show from, Right Now Heating and Air to, Tim Bungard, the CEO of Pioneer Title. And you have all these guys out there, these businesses that are trying to be optimistic, not trying to be, just they're trying to put a good vibe out there for people and give people options and kind of give the truth about what's really going on around here. And I kind of want to go back to you and talk a little bit about, what are your thoughts, on what's going on and how, the overall economic health gets affected by just jobs in general. And I know that you do the, putting boys back to work, I think that's what you call it, but what are your thoughts on what are you feeling out there?
Well, I will tell you, Chris, that there are still people that need jobs, but we see these new constructions. We see people actually spending money, and the help wanted signs. And you take a look at the rest of the country, like let's say Florida, that's still devastated. Here in the Treasure Valley, you have people coming in, whether it's the Boise Chamber that's doing a good job, or their umbrella group. I believe it's the Treasure Valley Chamber-esque group. I can't remember their name, but from Caldwell to Mountain Home, these groups are rolling it. And like you, we hear so much bad news. We try and focus on the good news. People are meeting payrolls. Yeah,
and that is true. And you're watching. We've discussed. And I don't know that. You never really know the truth until the companies move here. But I've heard stories from anywhere from Boeing to Google and some of these other companies moving, not their companies here, but moving small portions of their company, whether it's their, the web-based stuff or whatever it is. But even when you start talking about you hiring, 30 people, but if you have, we get, 300 companies doing that's a huge effect on Boise in general and their overall health.
Well, and as you talked about coming here from San Diego, the what we have here when it comes to raising a family, when it comes to crime, when it comes to education, there's not a better place in the country to raise a family than here.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why we're getting all this great, all this, they kind of say Boise's on the spotlight right now, which is a great thing, and it's funny because when I'm out there talking to people and we discuss what's going on, and people don't want the overall feeling is they want it to get better. But the Idahoans, your typical person that's lived here forever, they don't really like all these outsiders coming in here and, hey, don't tell everybody about Boise, keep it quiet, and we don't want all these people moving in here. But the truth is we need a push, and even though we're getting all this good information, which is great because people across the country are seeing now, we're no longer Iowa, it's Idaho. You know what I mean? Yes. And so when you talk about that in general, it is, when I first moved here, people would call it Iowa all the time. And I'm just like, oh, it's Idaho, and you start talking about, but now when you start talking about, we're in Forbes magazine, Money magazine is putting us all over the radar. Brookings is giving these great rankings. That deal we did on Boomtown, Boise, and it's true. But the good news is it just keeps a positive place for us on the roadmap in general for people relocating or their families and just in general moving here.
Well, and, we always talk, it was funny, we were talking about how do people in radio get jobs. They might read some press, they might see something, they might see a story on CNBC about this part of the country.
Yeah, and that is true. And so people start reading about it, and they do read, they do look, and they do. The news just isn't general. Everyone always talks about how they only talk about bad news, but you talk about unemployment around here, kind of dropping a little bit. Little by little. I don't know, we're at like 7.8%, something like that right now. Which doesn't put us in the greatest, but it doesn't put us in the worst either for the country. But as that number starts to dwindle away, I think that's where you're going to start seeing that, big economic push we need to make things, better in general for Idaho and Boise.
You imagine back in 2007 when the unemployment in Ada County was 2.3%.
That's crazy.
I know, and it would be nice if we could get that back sometime. And again, when we have all these buildings going up, the Jack's Place, I mean, you just take a look at your way in here. You've got Jack's Place coming up. That's that's going to be the Simplot facility. You got Whole Foods, you got Walgreens, you got Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
It's amazing. And here's something else. You talked about Ruth's Chris, and we have Big Al's coming in, but then Dave & Buster's coming in as well.
Yeah, is Dave & Buster's really coming?
I believe so. That's what
great.
my sources say.
Yeah, well, and everyone needs competition, and it kind of is what it is. But, even you look at like the 10-mile, I think they call it 10-mile interchange. We were out there, we were going fishing a couple weeks ago, and we started driving out there. You kind of get in the middle of nowhere, and there's a Fast Eddie's. And Fast Eddie's is growing. I mean, they're popping up everywhere.
It's like a super Fast Eddie's. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at and they're beautiful. I mean, they for a gas station, I guess. But you look at when you drive out there, you're like, well, who's going to get gas out here? There's nobody out here. But what they're seeing, and like you and I were talking about with Annette at the break, in general, these companies run algorithms. They run reports. They run prospectus on what's going to happen. And so they know that this land's being bought up and development starting again, which is incredible. There's no lot. You look in Meridian. Every lot we had, 2 years ago, everyone was doom and gloom, and the lots were worth nothing. Now you talk about there's no inventory left. So you start talking about when we start chewing, these developers on the real estate side of things start chewing, not developers, investors or builders start chewing up all this inventory in Meridian, and it flows over into Eagle, and it flows over into the north end. So you look at these areas, what ends up happening is there's no other choice. These developers have not gone away. They're still there. So if the way I look at it is this, people always talk about how bad the market was, but once these lots start getting chewed up, you watch the inventory levels on the new construction side of things, development will start again. It's just inevitable. And so you look at places like Fast Eddie's over on 10 Mile and putting that gas station, well, he's just beating everyone to the chase because he's out there and they're ready to go. So as the houses start moving out there, people will use it.
It's funny you say out there. That's right by where I live. So I would kill for a great restaurant there.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to see that because and I think overall, you talk about Ada County, but it's not really Ada County. You talk about Meridian or the city of Eagle, or you talk about these different areas, and how concerned they are with what we're doing. So when you talk about what we're doing, not just on the house side of things, but subdivisions and having some commercial. And I think that really overall Meridian has done a fantastic job of keeping that nice mix where you could live in a subdivision like Paramount where there might be a dentist office out front, a nice restaurant like Geno's or whatever, right? And so you start talking about that stuff. A lot of people don't like it. Developers don't like it so much, but overall, it gives a better overall feel for Boise in general. And look at Bound Crossing. I was down there the other day. It's incredible. Whoever's in charge of controlling that environment down there, they've really done a fantastic job. With elevations, the use of rock or whatever they're doing, and the overall feel of just Boise.
But you bring up you go back to Meridian, and you have to wonder what Meridian has done that others haven't. Look at the new 10 Mile. They were going to. They're expanding that. They've got Main Street Meridian. It's going to be 4 lanes.
Right.
So they're being proactive. And you look at the Fred Meyer out there by Chinden or whatever, the brand new superstore. That's incredible.
Well, people don't know about that too. As you look at that, there's a couple churches going in there as well. But overall, you look at that Fred Meyer's is in, but there's so much more going in there.
Right.
And just like talk about the new Meridian Center there, the lifestyle community that's going in there. On Fairview and Eagle Road, people have no idea what that thing's going to look like when it's all said and done. I mean, they're just starting, and so you talk about it's going to take some time for the flow to really start happening. But when they get it all buttoned up, and like you said, Meridian Road and the other things we're dealing with, it's just it's going to be just a fantastic thing for Boise.
Well, Chris Lofthus with us as we continue on 350-6228 350-6228. Give him a call or. Website, chrisloftus.com. Contact us at clgeagle.com. Contact us at clgeagle.com. So we take a look at the next 3 to 5 years. What do you expect to see? Everyone kind of I talk to people, they're like, God, you just, even from builders to just people in general, when you talk to them out there, I talk a lot about, like I always say, being optimistic, but I still think that what we've seen, and I always talk about appreciation or market correction, I think what we've seen over the past, year or so, or year to date from this year to last year, I think it's more of a market correction. I think there was so much dumped on the market when it comes to short sales or bank-owned properties. But now I think we're kind of settling in, and I think we're going to see a nice appreciation growth. I always talk about maybe 8 to 12%.
even if we saw 6 to 9% appreciation over the next 12 to 18 months, be a fantastic thing. And then I think we're going to settle into a nice 4% return on your investment. And what people don't understand is there's so many benefits to owning your house, from tax write-off of interest to the fact of just home ownership in general and how it makes you feel. And you talk about the American dream and how it kind of went away. You know, and people.
Time magazine cover story.
Yeah, and well, people were really down on it, and it turned a lot of people into what you would say maybe a renter or not, you know. And the fact is, I think that's coming back again. I think the people are really starting to believe in it again, and the benefits of being a homeowner.
All right, there we go. We continue on. Chris Lofthus here, chrislofthus.com, 350-6228. 350-6228. Contact us at clgeagle.com. Contact us at clgeagle.com. Much more of the Chris Lofthus Show here at 580 KIDO.